So,
all right, go
sir,
ahead.
young Sergey, should we move into
The dish or the sports
dish.
minute? What do we want to do first?
Oh, you know what? Let's talk a little bit about Sports Minute.
do
Because you and
sport.
I took a little trip to Seattle
We
recently.
did. Yes.
It was
very
like our
tiny.
ambassadorship
Mhm.
from Spokane. And we met
Opened
with...
indoors.
Yeah, we met with some sports teams over there in the LGBT
We
community.
did. We met with Orcas, the swim team over in Seattle.
Mhm.
They're a gay swim team.
Mhm.
And the Quake, a gay rugby team,
Yeah.
part of the IGR.
All of the people... And for people who don't know, the IGR is the International Gay Rugby Association.
Yes.
So they kind of oversee all of the different gay rugby teams that are out there. And so something happened this week that was very interesting, which is kind of really cool. Something that is very similar to what World Rugby did in March, which is USA Rugby, which handles all the teams in the U.S., signed a deal with International Gay Rugby, IGR, to form partnerships to rid the sport of rugby, of homophobia in the U.S. Big deal. Listen, we've been talking about gay rugby players coming out. You know, recently we did 2 stories
We did.
on that. We had, and then Gareth Thomas has an amazing, beautiful ad with Guinness that Guinness put out talking about Gareth Thomas's, his coming out story as he, you know, he's an active player in rugby. So he came out while he was actively playing. And of course, we talked about Keegan Hurst about a month ago when he came out as well, also actively playing in rugby in the UK.
And that's a big deal. There's a lot of people actively playing coming out, which is important because, you know, it's advancing the sport of rugby. It's becoming so much more inclusive. And, you know, I think this is a brilliant thing that's happening, the
I
partnerships.
think so too.
And,
You know,
it's we need to make the sports world more, you know, inclusive of everybody and more equal, because we all know that the sports world is probably, you know, the last frontier kind of thing.
Right,
We need to
for-
get that, yeah.
and it is,
that.
it's been seeping in. I do say, now I don't know, so don't, you know, call me out, but I feel like something like this should be done in the NFL.
Yes.
And maybe it's there, but I don't believe that the owners and the
No.
coaches are really pushing it. Because here was my question when I read the story. What are they going to do? Is this just a proclamation because it looks good? But they actually are going to work with member associations, clubs, and unions to promote acceptance of LGBT players and fans. They're going to provide educational tools and support IGR events. That's a big deal. There's an action plan in place to make this happen. And it is going to be about visibility and support of their players. You want the group behind you. You want the big administration to be actively supporting you. It's going to
do.
make the difference
Absolutely.
in removing homophobia from your sport. And NFL, let's face it, we watched what happened to Michael Sam over the year, and it really smacked of some homophobia.
And NFL has been saying, you know, we're getting rid of homophobic comments, we're getting rid of discrimination based on race, gender orientation, all of that. But the truth is, I don't think that there has been much to show that has happened.
I'm with you.
Even in interviews with Michael Sam, which, if you don't know, he was the first openly gay NFL player
to be drafted.
So he was drafted first on, where did he go?
In the 800 millionth, the Rams were
the Rams first, and then he got picked up by Dallas Cowboys,
and then they dumped him as well, and he ended up in
Canada,
the Alouettes, in Canada. And then he resigned, and now he's just home.
Exactly. But the truth is, like, in the conversation, in interviews, in talking about him, the sportscasters would always bring up, oh, well, what's the locker room like? Why does it matter? That's such a...
ESPN did an absolutely horrific interview with Michael Sams because it wasn't about his playing. It was about the locker room.
And you don't go around... Right. You don't go around to any other player and be like, well, what's your locker room experience like?
Exactly.
Do you love slapping someone's butt?
I know.
Is that great for you?
And even if I do, is that about the game?
No. So it was unprofessional, and I think that we have a long way to go. But
I do
right.
too. So I think it's fascinating. And what's interesting about rugby taking this on, which I love, what a great, you know, like I did mention that the World Rugby made a similar deal in March. So this is following up the USA Rugby. They're like, we want to do the same thing. It's a very working man's sport. That's how it started back. It's over in the UK, and it's known to be very gruff. Listen, they don't wear padding.
No.
We were talking to the lovely man who is president of the Quake in Seattle. He's like, there's no padding. There ain't no cup down there. It is It's brutal.
Yeah, if you fall, you fall.
Yeah,
Like, there
if
you go.
And that's just how it is. So coming from a sport that is very gruff and very, working man, it's a big deal for them to reach out and do these things. And honestly, in the future, we're going to be speaking with more of the rugby players and the rugby teams, especially the Quake out of Seattle. Sergey and I are actually going to be over there to see some games and apparently take part in some practices.
Yeah, so Kurt or Jonathan or somebody thinks it's a good idea for us to be involved in the practice and in the gameplay.
I think it's a good idea for me to meet rugby players.
Right, but you want to be tackled by rugby players. I do not want to be tackled.
But what they think is funny is they want us to tackle each other in like whatever the tackle box is.
Oh,
which isn't that for fishing? I'm pretty sure the tackle box is for
the
fishing.
tackle box is for fishing.
But, and they want to put
right.
us on whatever two sides it is. Anyways, apparently it's a thing. It's going to be pretty funny. I'm pretty sure I'm going to break my ankle.
Right.
But as long as all the rugby players like lift me and carry me, then I'm okay.
Right.
And can we spend, this is horrible. Can we spend some time in the locker room?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Well,
That'll
there
be
you go.
great.
I think that's where it starts.
I
and
just
ends.
want to sit with my cappuccino in the corner and just observe.
No, you have to have stout.
Right.
You know that rugby
Yes.
is a social sport. They are very social.
We
and
were
afterwards,
told.
they have their third half or third part, whatever.
Yeah.
Where they go to the bar.
They say it's actually required that you always, in the game with the other team, you all go to a bar.
Yeah.
And when we were talking to them in Seattle, they said, and that means if our host team is a straight part of the straight rugby league, they go to a straight bar with them and they have those drinks. And if they're up with the Seattle Quake, they take them to the gay bar that they like to drink at.
And they all go and drink.
And you just do it. And I think I think that's amazing. So, more power to rugby players. More and more seem to be coming out. Check out the Guinness commercial. It actually made me tear up. It's a beautiful story about Gareth Thomas. So I do like that this is happening. We're going to be following this story, and we're going to be asking our friends at the Quake to find out what they think about these wonderful things that are happening. The IGR, teaming up with USA Rugby to remove homophobia, and how they think it's going. We're going to keep up on that story, so that's kind of excited. So
I love it.
Sports Minute.
There you
from
go.
the boys.
There you go.